Caroline Myers. I'm the pastor of South Congregational Church, which is a United Church of Christ, and I've been here since 2005, and 7 years. The church was gathered as a congregation in 1824, and the original building they started building then by subscription, so people essentially pledged to help build the church, and they brought down the foundation stones that you saw in the basement. They brought them down on horse cart from Pelham, so the stones came down from there, and they designed the church based on a model of one of the churches that was in one of the towns that was flooded for the Quabbin. It was a pretty standard model in the time, and so you'll see a lot of churches in the area that look similar to that. So the original building of the church was erected, I think, finished in 1826, and the sanctuary was originally downstairs, and then there was a conflict in the church, so they created an upstairs and a downstairs gathering, and then in the late 1800s the sanctuary was put upstairs and the downstairs was used for fellowship hall. And the church has been a real beacon. If you're riding your bicycle to get here, any way you come, you have to go uphill. And so I think that was really intentional, that it's in a place that you can see from a distance from any direction. And I think the idea is that you would look for that steeple, and you would look for the church and know where you were going to, and it would be that kind of a place of stability and security. So it was built stable and secure, and we're hoping to keep it that way. Since I've been here, the trustees who are in charge of the property of the church and the finances of the church have made it their goal, and they've put it on every agenda and every set of minutes to move towards zero energy net use. And so we've had that in front of us for quite a while, and so we've been working toward that in both large and small ways. The major work that we did in the capital campaign 4 years ago started with the energy efficiency of the building, so that we weren't losing heat out the steeple. For instance, we removed the outer walls of the sanctuary package and re-insulated the whole thing, and then put up new walls and new windows, and so that all of that is energy efficient. And then we've been doing things like changing light bulbs, and we've moved from paper products for coffee hour to using our china and using the dishwasher that we have. So there's a variety of things that we've done, both small and large, that we've been working toward. And then the idea of using a solar array became a natural outgrowth of that. We really wanted to reduce the use of fossil fuels that the church has, and we have an oil tank system that we've been using for a long time, and it's been fine, but especially with the oil prices being so various and high, and just wanting to conserve this place for further generations too. We had a group of people that was a subset of the trustees that really started looking at how we could do this effectively, and so the plan that they came up with was to change from an oil-based fuel system to an electrical fuel system, and then to put the solar array on the roof of the church in order to feed that system, in order to pay for that system. And so we figured that that was a way that we could actually do this cost effectively and efficiently, and that it would also mean that we were taking care of the people that will see this place on its hill for the next 100 years, that it would be a place that would be wisely using the resources that God has given us, and that it would be a place where we could say, we want this to be a place of gathering and a place of wholeness, a place where people feel that healing happens, and we're trying to be part of the healing of the earth in the process.
My name's Dave Cody. I am a congregant here, and I'm also the general contractor that has undertaken the fourth phase of our four-phase capital campaign, which started with great structural remediation and ended with energy conservation measures. When I joined, I did not expect this to be my role, and I actually did not expect to be the contractor doing many of these things that was certainly not at heart why I joined. But shortly after joining, some of the older members of these other committees, the Renovations Committee and Buildings and Grounds and Energy, and realized who I was and used me as a resource. Phase 4, we basically removed the exterior of the building on the main, the sanctuary hall or the front meeting house, and removed all the existing insulation from that post and beam framework that we exposed. And we did this largely from the outside to preserve the interior fabric of the building, because we didn't want to replaster, we didn't want to lose any of the historic moldings. And in fact, anything on the exterior facade, particularly the front of the building, the columns and some of the heavy moldings and things like that, where they weren't rotten, we did replace them. But we removed them to put them back up so that the exterior facade would look the same. After insulating the cavities, which we had discovered when we removed the exterior sheathing, that previous years' attempts to try and increase the insulation value of the building were haphazard at best, which is kind of the nature of trying to loose fill with cellulose through holes drilled in a building, because you have no way of verifying how complete your process is. So the exterior cavities were filled with spray foam, which is a wonderful material for both its insulation value and its air sealing properties, because in the drive to have a super insulated envelope, or the jacket, if you will, that keeps your conditioned space separate from the outside, the unconditioned space, air sealing is really equally important as insulation value. Because, you know, I often say that you could take a tent in the Arctic, and if it was completely air sealed, you would still be able to heat it to a very comfortable temperature because you're not changing the air. You know, once we had the building taken apart from the outside, in addition to insulating, we also upgraded all the windows to modern insulated glass double pane windows with, you know, new seals. They actually operate. They don't slam down on people's fingers when they open them, and they open, which was something that the old windows really lacked as a functionality. So, and then we increased the insulation in the attic as well to a much higher standard. You know, our building code requires us to go to R38 as a minimum, and R being a number that equates to sort of, well, in the simplest sense, it's how good your insulation is or how thick it is. So we added enough to come up to about an R70, which is literally double the code. And all of those things in concert, the air sealing, the insulation, the new windows, and putting in energy recovery ventilators so that the occupants would be in fresh conditioned air at all times, combined to create a super insulated shell that reduced our energy budget at the time by almost 40%, which is remarkable when you consider we did less than half of the entire structure. I mean, energy conservation, there's many different competing theories out there, and one of the ones that I have read is called, you know, it's buckets of energy. And the first greatest bucket that you can fill is behavioral change. So in the shoulder seasons, use natural ventilation, natural temperature regulation. In the heating season, you would hope to have the most efficient way you could produce the heat for your building. And in the summer, you know, rely on the most efficient way you could to cool the building. And the better the envelope is, the lower your energy expenditures will be for either heating or cooling. Before, it was drafty and cold in the winter, and the heating system had to run constantly, and it was hot in the summer. And now it maintains a better temperature throughout. The fact that the windows operate allow us to sort of do some energy conservation through behavioral change. So when you don't need AC, in the past the usual accepted method is close your windows, set your temperature, let the AC run. It may be 72 out and you wanted 73 in your sanctuary, but because of, bodies expel a lot of heat, so you get a lot of people in there, the temperature raises. And the behavior would be, go to the wall, turn something on, use energy to affect your comfort. Well, now we can open windows and sort of do that same thing, but use something that does not require an energy expenditure. So at first, the passive energy conservation measures we undertook, the air sealing, the insulation, new windows, reduced the burden upon our existing heating and cooling plant or operating systems. So there were reductions in both the volume of fuel we needed to buy in the winter and the volume of electricity we were buying in the summer to run the AC. As we move forward and we add the solar panel system, and we are going to be changing from a fossil fuel-based heating system to air-sourced heat pumps, then the additional savings will come that we will generate all, if not more, than the electricity we would need to operate the building and all its systems. But that is only really possible in concert with this much more highly efficient heating and cooling equipment. So it's kind of, when you budget a specific amount per year and then you make changes to your plant facilities that all of a sudden require only a quarter of what the original budgeted energy expenditure, that leaves the 3/4 to start paying yourself back for all these improvements to your equipment that you've put in or the building envelope itself.
The system itself works having both the electrical HVAC system and the solar array that are part of a total package system. We're funding the purchase of that and the construction of that through a mortgage that we've taken on the parsonage that the church has, the home that I live right across the street. So that's going to give us the money that we'll be using to pay for that initially, for the outlay. Then through the SREC program, the Solar Renewable Energy Credits, we will be receiving some funding back into the system through that. And then the money that we have set aside annually in our budget that typically goes toward fuel costs will be used to repay the mortgage. We've also invited people to purchase a solar panel in honor of their children, perhaps, or for an anniversary or for something special, and so that will help to defray the initial cost of what we need to take for a mortgage. Every year the trustees sit down and say, what are we going to need to project for fuel costs? We won't need to do that at all. Because we have a standing record of what our electrical costs are on a regular basis, we'll be able to anticipate that. And then the HVAC system will be a larger electrical cost, but we'll be able to anticipate that. And then the solar panels will feed back into the grid and we'll pay for it that way.
As far as these projects sort of being economically viable in and of themselves and in a sense paying for themselves, there are many avenues for both a larger organization or an individual to use to make these projects affordable. And so, in particular to the solar energy, there are grants that you can get for installation. There are the continuing payments that are SRECs, or the Solar Renewable Energy Credits, which basically pay you for the power you've produced. These used to be called carbon credits or carbon offsets, and there was an open market where gross polluters would be able to buy these credits from the green producers, and in theory it all sort of helps to balance out. But usually it is, I think, the most compelling argument for putting solar energy or solar panels on your house. Number one, they're the only technology you can put in your house that will pay you back over time. And number two, no one likes buying oil, really. I mean, we are living in a world where, there's just so many negatives about it. Never mind the pollution that it produces when it's burned, it's where it's sourced, the demands upon our society, all of those things. So that if you really are going to care for your planet and the place you live in it, the best thing you can do, and for your wallet, is to put some technology on your house that is readily available that ultimately pays you back. From my own personal experience and the system I have on my own house, it took 7 years and it paid itself back. And the whole time, on any sunny day, the pleasure of being able to walk down to your utility meter and watch it spin backwards when it was mechanical, or having the digital ones, flash in a negative, is very viscerally satisfying. I would like to see everyone have enough solar panels on their house to take care of all of just the little things. Your refrigerator, your digital clocks, everything that just sort of remains on is in the background of your house. If everyone did that, then we wouldn't need to build more coal-fired plants. We wouldn't need extra nuclear plants, and it's very democratic because the power is on your house. So you are voting with your wallet that this is how I want to help conserve.
You open the Bible and the first pages of it talk about God's creation of the earth and the care for the earth, and then care for the people to care for the earth. And so part of our role as God's people is continuing that care for the earth. I mean, it's the gift that we have. It's the place that we live that God's given us. And so it's a way to keep caring for that place that God has given us, and to care for the people that we share it with. And for the people that are going to keep sharing it in generations to come. It's all part of a bigger picture. It's not just about us. It's about everybody. And so that's our mandate as God's people, I think. And in the United Church of Christ in particular, two of the things that they talk about is that we're really intended to be a people of God's extravagant welcome, that God really welcomes us in. And if you look at this building as a place of welcome, to continue opening that welcome to people in a way that they see that we are caring for the earth and caring for each other and caring for generations that are yet to come. And for those who don't have the resources, that we're helping to make more resources available to others, that's all a part of what it means to be this church, and what we want to do for this community still to come.